we just came out of apartheid. There's still a lot of repairing to do. So we need to empower our women,
Yeah,
our
yeah,
girls, because it doesn't look good on us as men if our women are doing this bad. Really, it doesn't. I think the measure of
yeah.
the
It doesn't. Yeah,
nation is measured by how the how the women are doing. If the women are successful, the women are happy, the women are doing well. It reflects well on the men. Like I don't know how what
yeah. True.
this. Good. Just stop phone well. All right. Okay. Welcome to episode 2 of Brutal Podcast. So anyway, today's conversation is: are menstrual cycles or periods a signal that a female is ready for reproduction? That's the topic for today. We all heard I get off it.
Yes,
Yeah, sure.
sure.
I'll start with my opinion on this. Okay. I'll say there are many faces to this, or many aspects to look at this. So we have I'll start with the biological aspect. So when a
Mm-hmm.
female has the menstrual cycle or the periods, it means it's the egg. Agar. It's the egg. It means the egg was not fertilized, so it's time. It's over. So it needs to be ejected from the body again to give space for another
Yes,
healthy egg, right? So looking at it from
Yes,
that
yes.
aspect, I'll say, or from a biological point of view, yeah, that's a signal that a woman or a female is ready for reproduction. And then from another perspective, let's say the law says the legal age of consent in South Africa is 16. This means that you, as an even if you're 50 years old, you can engage in intimacy with a 16-year-old, and you would not be breaking any law. So according to the law of South Africa, in other countries it's 18. According to the law in South Africa, a female is ready for reproduction at the age of 16. And then there's the moral aspect or standpoint, whereby people just go with what I guess what feels right. A lot of people believe that 16 is a young age, at least 18.
mm-hmm.
In fact, even if you are 21 and you are dating a 50-year-old, you'll find people judging the 50-year-old. So I guess there's these three aspects that determine. I guess it just depends on you as a person, or which aspect do you take. In the past, before, because this thing, yeah, or a person is an adult at 18 was discovered recently when they started doing the brain things, and they realized the brain matures around the age of 18. So they call it the frontal core. The frontal core apparently is the area of the brain which is responsible for decision making. So around the age of 18, that's when
Mm-hmm.
it fully matures. So that's when they decided to go to the legal age is 18, as far as the source that I've read
Mm-hmm.
says. So yeah, so there's the point of view, yeah, what do I call it? Brain science or neuroscience, and then there's the point of view, yeah, biological science. In the past, people had kids, people were married at a very considerably young age. As soon as they started having their first period, they were ready for marriage and reproduction. That's days before the microscopes and brain scannings and blah blah blah. So yeah, now I'll say, or in
Mm-hmm.
my opinion, I'll say 21. I'll say 21 is the age that a person is ready for reproduction. I believe by 21, you know what you want, you know what you don't want. At least you've experienced life. Nyana. So I think, yeah, at 21, a person is fully matured and ready for reproduction. That's me. I'm out. Taki.
Hey, this is a very controversial topic.
Yeah.
Somehow I feel like I feel like I should have been prepared beforehand for it. But anyway, um, the idea that uh, the body prepares for when a girl or woman menstruates, the body is preparing for a possible pregnancy. I mean, it's a scientific fact. I mean, that's not even a debate at the current moment, I think, among the science community.
Yeah.
However, whether it is the right thing for a girl child to get pregnant at an early age of 12 times 13 is a is the controversial part here.
Yeah.
As
Yeah.
much as the body is showing, as much as the body now is showing that this person can reproduce, um, human beings are known to be moral people. So
Yeah.
morality tends to drive most of our decision making, especially on when to have sex, on when to have kids, when to marry, who not to marry. So the decision on to whether to reproduce at that age is what's controversial.
Yeah.
But it has it has not been that case for a very, very long time. Um, it's only a recent phenomenon where people think, um, for example, a 15-year-old cannot be married and a 15-year-old cannot reproduce and bear kids.
Yeah.
Um, if, for example, you follow the most read book, I'm sure in the world, the Bible,
Yeah.
you will find that Jesus' mother was more or less at 14 or 15 years old when she
Yeah.
first fell pregnant with
Yeah.
Jesus.
In the past, like mothers were considerably young
Uh,
with their first child.
yeah,
Mm.
so like I often say to people that all of these things are arbitrary. Some of these things are arbitrary. We do not have a basis um, that is there, like a framework that will guide us in these things.
Yeah.
Um, however, our understanding of how an adult or our understanding of how an adult behaves usually guides these kinds of perceptions in us.
Yeah.
If we feel like, for example, a 15-year-old is not adult enough, we often feel they are also not adult enough to reproduce.
Yeah.
So it's a societal thing that has evolved over time. But if you look at in the past, there was nothing wrong with it. There
Yeah.
wasn't like if a guy would come up, if a 25-year-old would come up and say, I want to marry a 15-year-old, they would marry the 15-year-old. As long as the families agreed, the marriage would be legal and life would continue. Um, as if
It's
nothing
normal.
happened. Yeah, it's normal. However, today we live by a set of different standards. And I think it's not even just the issue of getting pregnant and getting married early. It's a lot of issues today. Today's morality is so much different than the morality of the ancient time. For some reason, I
Mm.
think we believe we are superior morally than our forefathers and so forth. I don't know on what basis, but maybe because we've discovered things in medical sciences like how long does the brain take to develop. And
Yeah.
by the way,
Mm-hmm.
18 is an arbitrary number, meaning that there is no scientific basis to why 18 is the majority, is the age where someone becomes an adult. Because if you read through medical literature or something like that, you'll find that the brain fully develops between mid 20s of a person's life to late 20s. So, from 25 up until 29, somewhere there,
Yeah.
that's
That's
when
why.
someone's brain is. That's when it's fully developed. So
Yeah.
even
That's why I mentioned
the
that.
age of majority,
That's why I mentioned that. Or they say, or the brain starts to mature around that age of 18. But then now I feel like
So
21
do
is
you
like
think
the sure age.
before you even know that you can, I don't know, before you even have girls have already had them. When I say teenage boy, before you can, I don't know, before you have your first wet dream, I don't know, they've had their period.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, obviously that doesn't go for everyone, but on average, it's usually that females develop faster bodily than the males. But when we talk about certain like maturity, those are very vague concepts. I mean, you cannot just um, limit maturity to bodily development because there are people who are old, but you can tell these people are missing a screw or two in terms of their maturity. So
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
want us to get into that discussion today,
yeah.
but the discussion has to be about what actually we think about um,
Mm-hmm.
what society has become and how people view things. There's one view though I hold that as much as these things are unscientific, like the age of 18 or the age of 21, in some countries the age of maturity is 21, in some countries it is 18, right? So they vary across. And in some countries the ages are used together. For example, you can vote at 18 in the United States, but you cannot drink alcohol at the age of 18. You have to wait until you're 21. So some countries use these ages together to control certain behaviors. Um,
Mm-hmm.
in the USA, it was in response to a lot of drunk driving by the youth back in the, I don't know, in the 80s or 70s. I don't even know the period, but it was because of something like that. And then lawmakers decided, you know what, let's not give these kids alcohol as soon as they turn 18. So it's very serious. Then, like, if you go to a club in the United States, you have to have your ID. You can't just show up there and say, I like kids. You'll be chased away from the door. So um, they really regulate that 21 thing because, I mean, I think if you are a company and you do not enforce this thing, it's easy for your place to get shut down and so forth.
Now I support that
Especially in
ID to Tavern. I support it. If only give it to the
I mean, definitely. I
Yeah.
also would support that. I would also would
Yeah.
support that. The unfortunate
Mm-hmm.
thing is now, um, I think even if we had the system like that, and I mean, tavern owners, even in this day and age in South Africa, they have the right to ask for identification if they have a sense of that this person might not be of the legal age. But they don't do it
Mm-hmm.
anyway. I mean, I
Yeah.
think it's because of the greed and then knowing that okay, obvious either way. Even if I let this person in and they're underage, there's the likelihood or they won't shut this place down. They won't get arrested. So
Where's where is Zaga Bafana ba?
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, and so yeah,
So,
someone will
so
obviously say something like that. They'll be like, ah, if they didn't get it from me, they're probably gonna get it from someone else. So why
mm,
bother for me to follow the law and so forth? So we have an enforcement issue in South Africa, and even the police in our community know about it. That have an owner sells alcohol to young kids, but don't do anything about it until something that happened in Eastern Cape where kids I don't know were
yeah,
sprayed with what and then they ended up dying.
yeah,
We do not have enforcement in that regard. Like no police just comes. Back in the day, they used to these special forces would just come to a tavern, then they'll just ask for things, and if you didn't have it, it could go down. But nowadays, tavern owners, they even know the police, they are friends with them. So um, it's very tough to enforce this. But I think we are digressing in terms of the issue at hand today. What I wanted to say was, as much as all of these things are arbitrary, meaning that there is no scientific basis for them, like the age of consent or the age of what. Oh, uh, by the way, Pete, I have to correct you on the issue of someone who's 16 sleeping with someone over the age of 18. It's actually illegal. It's
In South
allowed
Africa.
Mm.
to have, yes, in South Africa. So people are allowed to have an age gap of 2 years when they are below the age of majority. And when the age of majority is 18. So in other words, only 16-year-olds are allowed to sleep with adults, but adults who are 18 years old. The actual law says, right? The law
Yeah.
in terms of statutory rape, it says that in the you have a situation whereby, for example, a 16-year-old is allowed to
Mm-hmm.
consent to sex, right? But they are still a
Mm-hmm.
minor. But they are only allowed to consent to sex with someone who they have like a 2 years age gap only because they are still a minor. It is only
Oh
when
yeah,
you reach
yeah.
18 where your consent does transcends the age. So when you're 18, you can date someone who's 95, or you can date someone who's 65 or 14, not 14, but or 45 or something like that. Anyone above the age of 18, even if the age gap is 10 years or 20 years or 30 years, it doesn't matter. That's when, because you are now an adult by law, you have reached the age of majority to decide what can happen or what shouldn't happen with your life. But
Mm.
at 16, you are still a minor. As much as you have the power to consent, you have the power to consent to having relations with an adult who is not 2 years older than you. In other words, the 2 years is like the maximum age difference
Oh,
you can have
Mm-hmm.
with your
if you are
16 years.
over 18, it's illegal to have intimacy with a 16-year-old.
Yeah, so if you are 19 and the child is 16, my guy, you are going to prison.
Serious? I mean, I was
It
so
is fun.
sure.
Yeah, you
I was so
are going
sure
to
16 is
prison.
the legal age. I mean, mo Google uh, while a person younger than 18 is considered a child in South Africa, the Act does allow consensual sex for people who are between 16 and 18. It is illegal for any person.
Yeah,
Oh, 16 and 18. Wow, how did I miss that?
yeah.
How did I miss that?
Yeah.
I remember
So
even watching a
I
show.
want us to clarify that.
Oh,
Yeah.
actually, I was
I
so
want
sure.
us, yeah,
Oh,
yeah. I mean,
eh,
yeah.
people are breaking the law out
This
there.
yeah, people are breaking them. This law is very specific, and I think most gens do not really know about it because even I found out about these 16 parts not so long ago. I only knew
Yeah.
that you could consent to sex only when you're 16 and above, but I didn't know there were limitations when you are still a minor. Because at 16 you're still a minor according to South African law. You can't sign any contract and so forth. So you are only limited to having sex with someone who's not 2 years older than you. In other words, once they are 19 and the person is 16, it's already on the danger zone. If one gets reported, you're going to prison for a few years, my dear.
Joe, and speaking of
So,
that, the law is not doing its job. I remember this one Nathan that I speak about this guy who's 28, impregnated a 12-year-old or 13-year-old. Apparently, he's released in
oh
no.
yeah, I remember the 10-year-old.
Yeah, I remember.
Oh, he's
Apparently,
released.
yeah, apparently he's released, but there's no evidence. Correct. And but the child gave birth. I wonder if, like, but there's no evidence. Can't they do a fertility test or something? Like,
So
it's
there's
so
no
Mm-hmm.
evidence.
it's so sad. There's no evidence. Apparently, what I've read recently, where he's been released, but
Mm.
out there's no evidence.
There's
Mm.
no
Yeah.
evidence.
Eh. This nurse says, Salaba, I
I
heard
think,
this on the radio. This nurse says, or when these kids are impregnated by adults, ne, if the adults who impregnated
Mm-hmm.
them, ne, they themselves, they bring them to the hospital, to the clinic. I understand. And when
yeah,
they
they
try to
do.
get
Yeah.
involved, the child and the adult will be saying, hey, leave us alone, mind their own business, blah, blah, blah. But even the child is saying so. So my question is, I mean, if a child who's underage, a 12-year-old is telling you to stay out of their business, how can you listen to a child say that? You're supposed to just uh,
Exactly.
arrest this
Yeah.
person, but no one is doing anything. Eish,
Yeah, but also I think it's also I think it's a very difficult situation. I think on the legal perspective of things, right? So
uh,
you have a
Mm-hmm.
situation whereby um they open the case, and in a case, for example, let's say in a place there's no pregnancy. I mean, pregnancy is something that happens way after this relationship has started. To be honest, we all know this thing. We come from townships or rural areas where we've seen these things play out.
mm,
Like, I mean, these people don't start dating and suddenly there's a pregnancy. Like, they
yeah,
start dating, we know for a while, then eventually one gets pregnant. But I'm saying at the stage whereby the girl hasn't gotten pregnant yet, it's very difficult to prove this matter because most of the victims, the girls who are like 15, who are 14, who are 13, who are 16,
Mm-hmm.
they are often, in this case, they are required to testify.
yeah, and
They
they
are
don't.
required to testify to saying, okay, fine, have you ever slept with this guy? And these girls, they flatly refuse to testify against this gentleman.
Yeah,
So you have a very like you have a question in two about okay, you want to enforce this law, but
Mm-hmm.
okay, what about this, right? These people don't wanna they don't wanna keep these cases. Most of these cases get opened and then they get closed by the victims themselves or the families of the victims. They say, well, okay. For example, in the case of whereby the girl got pregnant, they're like, I mean, it doesn't make sense for us to get this guy arrested if you could just support the child. Abo? So
yeah,
families make
Mm-hmm.
decisions based on desperation instead of actually trying to protect the girl's child, the girl child, or in this case, the minor. So
Mm-hmm.
it's always going to be a problem that plagues society because one, there's a child now involved. I mean, even if this guy gets arrested, when he gets out, at the end of the day, that's his child. I mean,
yeah,
does the government get involved and say now you lose parental privileges because you now raped this girl when she was 13 or 14? What happens? Um, Governor, there's a lot of difficult issues we have to talk about or we have to think about in this particular situation. But
Yeah.
for most of us, I think the thought should be like, just should just stay away from kids. Simple as that.
yeah. Just
Don't
stay away
make,
from
don't
kids.
complicate issues. Don't complicate issues. Stay away from kids. Date,
Yeah,
So,
um,
so
yeah, date your
but
peers, man.
my solution to this problem is obviously number one, it's about the law. Like the law should really take us serious, especially in the black communities, the poor communities. It seems like it's only in the poor communities or the rural areas or my or the law garai serious garena. That's why people just take advantage of
Mm,
kids. Like this incident that we spoke of
mm,
earlier, where this guy impregnated the girl and now he's released for no evidence. Even if I believe, even if the
mm,
girl is protecting the guy, Joe, like the fact that she's young, she's underage, that shouldn't be a problem. They should just get involved with the law. The girl cannot consent. They should just get involved. Ke kwele, mabaka a gago, but in my opinion, I think that they should just get involved. I mean, like, we should have shows like show ele ba reng ke to catch a predator, where like they stalk guys who sleep with children online. Like they just create a fake account on Facebook. They text you, they flirt with you,
mm.
they tell you, or I'm 14 or I'm 13. Uh, we want
Yeah.
to meet up and blah blah blah. So they want you to agree. They want you to note the fact that the person is 14, and if you would agree. As soon as you agree, they say let's meet up. They invite you over. You come to their house. They get someone who's like over 18 but looks young, and then he lets you inside the house. Once you get in the kitchen, and they tell you, sit down, grab a juice in the fridge if you want, I'll be back. Then this person goes to the other room, and then the host comes out. His name was Chris Hansen. And then they ask you, what are you doing here?
Mm,
And then you get arrested.
mm,
Yeah, like, yeah, they would catch child sex predators like that. So I think yeah, we need something like that in this country, especially in the rural areas. I think it would be a hit if like a lot of guys are just sleeping with kids and impregnating them, destroying their futures, so, and they get away with it. I don't know how
Yeah,
many.
perhaps, yeah, perhaps I would think if if there isn't if there isn't a law against that, because in some countries there's a law against entrapment, and entrapment is what you're talking about, pretending to be something you're not, so that you could catch a criminal, something like that.
So it's illegal, Gamo, in South Africa.
Ah, ah,
It's illegal in South Africa.
I'm not sure in South Africa, but
Yeah, you and I can understand why it would be illegal because on the same show there was this episode with this guy who has never ever committed any crime before. It was his first time. I guess he was just testing the waters. And then he was arrested. From there, obviously, with the criminal record of child sex predation, where are you going to get employment, the job? So he was like, ah, fuck it. The law destroyed my life. I've never committed a crime, so I might as well just go full in, both feet into this crime life. So he became a criminal for life because he figured, was one of my life was destroyed. So I guess I can understand why other countries would make this entrapment thing illegal. You understand? Talkie? Talkie, are you there? Hey, what's happening, my guy?
do not know what is happening.
Anyway, I was saying what on the issue of entrapment, get on the same episode, yeah, to catch a predator. There was a guy who has never, like, before that episode, he's never committed a crime before. So I think he was just testing
Yeah,
the waters, thinking maybe he could get away with the meeting with this child. And then he was arrested. From there, he had the criminal record of
yeah,
child sex predation. He could not get employment. So he became a criminal full time.
yes,
In and out of prison. His family tried to sue the show, but at the end of the day, I guess they allowed it in the US, the entrapment thing, and so there was nothing they could do. This guy was forever uh, tainted with the reputation, yeah, child sex predation, even if it was his first time. So I can understand why other countries would
yeah,
ban this thing.
yeah, true. So, I mean, questions would be asked, or maybe this guy had an edge, but he was fighting this edge, and you
Mm.
guys made it easy for him to actually give into those edges.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like we don't have pedophiles everywhere. We have pedophiles, and some of these people are really fighting their edge to not act on their
To
edges. You
not,
understand? And they're doing good thing.
yeah,
Like these people are doing the most difficult job. Like obviously, I'm not what I stand with them, but they are fighting this edge. They have this edge. They didn't choose it,
yeah,
but they are fighting it. So yeah,
they are fighting it, yes. So
mm,
if you entrap them, then make it easy then for them to go into prison and stuff.
yeah, that ever a problem. So another solution I'll say, or
Yeah.
I think they should. I think the in the black communities in the rural areas or poor areas, I think there's nothing to do, Munna, in terms of like for fun. There's just talents. So I can just imagine
Mm-hmm.
why it's so out of control. I mean, the same a child who's 8 years old will go and buy snacks at a tavern. There are no rules. Like people will sell snacks and
Yeah.
alcohol at the same time. No one is seeing anything wrong with this. So the child is just growing up exposed to
So,
that, exposed to these drunk predators. So a lot has to be done because I'm sure if you look at the teenage pregnancy, you'll find that majority is blacks in the poor communities. So poverty is a real problem.
Yeah,
It's a big, big problem. Sometimes you'll find that sex is used as a like a way to kind of like alcohol, a
the,
way to forget
the
about
recreational
reality, a way to
activity.
pass time.
Yeah,
Yeah, recreational activity, when
mm,
there's nothing else to do, sex and
yeah.
alcohol become the things that are easy to
They chose the
access.
thing to
Honestly.
do.
I mean, what else can you
Yeah, it's
do?
like sex is like it's free, so they don't pay for it. So people will just do it.
I mean, fairly. And there are these poor parents who actually sell their kids. Like there's a lot. Ah. In fact, if you even think about it, just think, okay, the only solution to this is to end poverty. But how do we end poverty? Like, that's a problem. Pella,
Yeah.
as people, we are left in like a devastating situation. Apartheid left us in a very devastating situation. I'm not sure if currently we can still blame apartheid, but it did do its damage. I think maybe now we can blame the government. But yeah, that's just
No,
what's happening.
the fact that your grandmother doesn't have pension fund savings is attributable to apartheid. So we cannot really say its effects have completely whistled out. Most of them, yes, they their effects are no longer, significant. But in most people's lives, those effects are still there. The fact that you don't have an inheritance
Yeah, they make
um
sure we don't have a
you,
inheritance.
because your grandparents didn't own any property or anything because of those laws. That is
Yeah,
the effect. It's generational.
yeah,
So we
on
cannot say, well, because it's 30 years, we cannot really attribute problems that started with apartheid um, to apartheid. But also, we cannot lay blame on every circumstance of ours to apartheid, because I mean there are people who have taken responsibility ever since democracy came through, and their lives are flourishing, right?
yeah,
So um, we must always balance the two to say, as much as we blame apartheid for the circumstances of many poor black people, there's an element of decision making that also goes into how life progresses further. Like, how does life look for the kids? How does life look for the grandkids?
yeah,
If people grab the opportunities that were given to them, the likelihood is they'll be better off than their grandparents or great grandparents. So there's always has to be a balance. When we criticize the system as deplorable as apartheid, you must also think that ever since 1994, a lot of people were given opportunities that they wouldn't usually have had.
yeah.
Now, to close off on um, the issue of the topic we've been discussing regarding um,
Age of consent.
reproduction, biology happening fast, and us accepting whether uh, a girl child is at what age is a girl child, um, morally um, allowed to perhaps have kids. One thing I would say is it's always good to go with what most of society believes. And if the society believes that it's it's irresponsible, for example, um, for for anyone to have sexual relations with someone who is, let's say, 18 or less than the age of 18, I think we must keep it at that. In other words, as much as I have said that in ancient times, or in not even in ancient times, in the ADs, in the Anno Domini years, people were getting married at 15, 16, and it wasn't a problem. We should seek and try not to apply ancient standards or old standards to today's world. So if today the law says an adult is 18, let's keep it at that.
Yeah.
Obviously, there are people who are going to try and cheat and say, if you date a 21-year-old, you are still a predator. Okay, well, fine. Now we are stretching it. I mean, we're not gonna have um objective boundaries.
Yeah.
So, but also, I would also advise audience as a gentleman, you can't go for someone you can say, oh, this person um is way below you in terms of thinking capacity. I mean, you're gonna have to do a lot of parenting, and also this person is your sexual partner. It doesn't really make sense. But
Mm.
what I would also want to happen is at least a change of legislation with regards to the cases of statutory rape. It shouldn't be in any of the parents' rights or any of the child's rights to drop the cases of statutory rape.
Yeah.
So if police discovered something, the case has been opened, the state must be allowed to proceed with the case in whatever manner they seem fit. Yes, the state can drop the case, maybe, for example, in the cases where we've mentioned that they might not have evidence. But when there's evidence like a child, things like DNA must be pursued to confirm whether the guy was involved or not. And then the law must take its course. I mean, otherwise, this is going to be a cancer that keeps springing up in our society. And I mean, you don't want your daughter in the future to be taken advantage of by an elderly guy or an older guy just because they are fresh meat or they are still clueless about the rules, so they think they can manipulate them or someone.
Yeah.
So I think it's very important that we do this to protect our sisters, our daughters, our nephews, our nieces, and so forth, even nephews, because as much as there might be male perpetrators, there's also female perpetrators. There are some boys who lost their virginity while sleeping with older women.
Yeah.
Those things are not spoken a lot about, but they also occur. So we must protect all children, by the way. Not
Yeah.
just girls, but all children, even boys. Yeah. As much as boys might think, no, it's a cool thing, they might not see it as abuse
Yeah.
because, boys just think like boys. But it is abuse. I mean, research has shown that over time it tends to affect these people as adults as well. The
Yeah.
way they view sex in the future, the way they view relationships, the way they live their lives, they
Yeah.
become very reckless because of very I mean, because of onset trauma they've experienced
Yeah.
because of engaging in such activities at a very early age.
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm saying, what as soon as it's very important for society to know about these things. I think there's not enough awareness. Number one, I don't
Yeah.
think the state is doing enough to make sure that people know exactly what statutory rape is, what the age of consent is, and what actually is consent.
Yeah.
And then we must also make sure that the law. I would also think maybe let's have an amendment in the law, making it if the state can pursue a case even without the consent of the minor child, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
When they become an adult, then it's a different matter altogether because now they have citizenry rights and then they can do whatever they want with the particular case. But if they are a child, we must protect them, even if it means going against them. When your parents discipline you, they discipline you not because you agree with the discipline, but it's because they think the discipline will somehow guide you into a right path and so forth. So kids must be kids. We must go back to fundamentals. Kids must be kids, and the state in this case must act as parents, make sure that the kids are protected, even if they think one are not being harmed. Your kid might not think they are being harmed by playing video games 12 hours a day or into the night, but it might harm them. They might end up developing epileptic shock and all those kinds of things. It's the things you have to protect kids from. At the end of the day, they are naive, they are inexperienced, they don't know what's good for them. So as the government, as the parents, as the community, we must step in and protect them. Only
Yeah,
when they reach the age of 18 and above, that's when we say, I decided because this person now has chosen.
yeah,
Yeah, I know some people would like to extend it and say, no, even when they're 18, they're still young, they're inexperienced. But there, at least you can sign on the dotted line and say, I, so and so agree to these terms and conditions of a contract. Then you are responsible because either way, unfortunately, we cannot keep, expanding this childhood phenomenon to say you are a child until 25. Because at the end of the day, questions will be asked to say, okay, if you're saying this person is a child up until 25, does it mean that when they do crimes, they are not convicted as an adult, even when they're 22? If a 22-year-old goes and kills someone, are we going to say it's a child? Kill someone and then let's prosecute them as a child. No, we're not going to do that. So we must not have double standards. So let's operate within the frameworks that we have currently. We can debate about maturity or immaturity in our own little circles, but when it comes to things like that are purely in the legal framework, like statutory rape, those things, community must rise up, community must be aware, police must enforce, and our laws must be tightened to make sure that these kids are protected.
yeah. In that on that note, their community, I feel like if Rastopa was selfish in the black community or in the poor areas, like you said, or don't have that mentality or ngwana ka next door as ngwana gao. Like we should actually like become
Yeah,
parents and brothers to everyone in the community. Riska for allow like in talks on or snacks are sold at the same building as alcohol. Like riska for allow
exactly. We must
person can
report
just
those things. Yeah.
a person cannot just build a tavern next door ya motho like anywhere. Like there should
Yeah.
just be a area where like, okay, here you can build taverns. You cannot just build a tavern anywhere. Come next door, come next door, come next door, tavern.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make sense. Like we should deal with those, and now we should have those. We should hold those tavern owners accountable, or about they just allow children in the tavern. So I think, as much as we can say, or we are poor, blah, blah, blah. But I think this is something that we can actually do. This is doable. You don't need money to just take accountability for your own community, take
Hey.
responsibility for your own community. Like, let's just come together and say, hey, we cannot allow this to keep going on. And most of the times, we know the
Yeah.
people who are
Yeah.
committing these things. We know them by name. We know their faces, but we just choose to say,
Yeah.
"Hey,
We
mind
know
your own
them.
business." So I think many of the problems that
Yeah.
we face in the community, we can literally just solve them if we decided that we want to. Just everyone is thinking on their own. Everyone is selfish.
Yeah.
As long as their kids are fine, everything is okay. It's
Yeah.
like
I
that
mean,
saying,
yeah,
"Yeah,
true.
a
Yeah. So, I
man."
mean, you need,
Yeah, so yeah, we can do it if we want to do it. Like, but everyone is just saying, "I, my child, if not my child, it's none of my business."
yeah, my child is fine. So, I don't care. Yeah.
But you don't realize, Uguti, this
Yeah.
also they say if you are they say abandoning your own nation is like abandoning your own child. Like in a way, it's
Yeah.
not so
True.
different. Like we have to stand up for your own. But this nation is where your kids grow up. Your kids are going to grow up. So investing in the nation, you're also investing in your child. So I don't know
Very
where do
true.
we
Very,
see
very
this?
true. Yeah.
Where do we fail to see this as blacks or whatever we can whatever term we can use. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I know. We definitely need to do better as the community and society. Yeah. With regards to these issues. And I
yeah,
mean, it's not going to change one day.
yeah. We should try to just
But
bring like even like try to I don't know, man. If one of us can do, man, just try, let's try to like come together, maybe in donate, investing, yeah, and just make sure good the kids have something to look forward to. I feel like sometimes if a person doesn't have the ability to dream or look forward into the future, and they feel like, there's nothing to do in this world. I don't have a future. That's when they start to like Guatemala and stuff, and they make reckless decisions. They're like, what's the point? So I think opportunities, we also need opportunities,
Yeah,
or
very
we
true.
have to be made aware of the opportunities. I feel like schools are not doing
Yeah,
enough
that
by
are available to you.
schools need to do enough by like guiding kids in terms of career opportunities, bursary opportunities,
Yeah,
all those things, like awareness, to let them know that you can also escape this. We didn't choose to be in this situation. Apartheid chose it. But with the opportunities that we have
yeah.
today, you can escape if you try, but you're going to have to work hard.
We
I
can
think as long
escape.
as a
Yeah,
person can think long term and
yeah,
dream, they won't make reckless decision in the moment.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, definitely. And I think most most of these small changes they depend on we don't need a lot of cash or a lot of resources to do them. Like
Yeah.
knowing Wana Machelo and exposing them to these kinds of knowledge, they're also making a difference. So it's a matter of saying, touch the next person to you. And if you touch the next person, knowledge expands
Yeah.
or expands as you give it to other people. If you teach one person, the likelihood is they might teach other people as well, and that knowledge flows and it expands and so forth. So there's a lot of things that you realize, oh, okay, I mean, at my age, I didn't know these things were available, but when time went, kids started being exposed to these things, and then suddenly now a large number, or a large group of them know. It didn't start like that. So what I'm trying to say is, we as the community, or as people who have actually lived in our own rural areas, townships, and also lived in cities and experienced a different kind of setup of life.
Yeah.
It's also important to say we should ask ourselves, how am I giving back to my community, or how am I improving the life of the
Yeah.
child of my neighbor,
Yeah.
or the life child in my street and so forth.
Yeah, especially because I don't think as a black person you can become successful and just say you are self-made. Like I think that's impossible. Like if you
You
started in the
can't. It's
if you start
impossible.
no way, you can't say you are self-made. As a black person, if you become successful, there's no way. Somewhere you use someone's help, you use
There's
someone's
no way.
resources. At some point, you cannot say or
Mhm.
you are self-made. But we have a lot of those people. As soon as they start living in the cities, they live in nice lives. They raise their kids there. They forget where they came from. Not even as much as go to the school you went to and give a motivational speech. Nyana. Not something even that small. Next.
Yeah.
So that's a problem. Selfishness and
Netflix. They just disappear for good.
a sense of belonging. Like I feel like there's this shame of being an African that makes people to stay away from the communities that they grew up in and forget where they come from. As soon as they
Yeah,
stand there
true.
close to
Yeah.
non-Africans, teach their kids English, whatever, like they don't feel that sense of this. We have to go back and show others that it's possible.
Yeah. Can actually escape this life. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just the motivational speech, just
No,
the
man.
being you, it's enough. It can be enough for someone.
Yeah, to say, no, well, I was in your shoes as well. Lena used to walk 10Ks to come to school and so forth. Those stories, as much as some people might think are cliche, they can inspire one young kid to say, you know what, even when I'm in this particular situation,
Mm.
I'm living with Magogo. Magogo takes care of the five of us and so forth with grandma. But if I work hard, I know one day I will leave this situation and life might actually smile upon me. So we do need a lot of role models,
Yeah.
but also our society in believing in things like witchcraft and so forth, people tend to want to run away from.
there's a lot of, yeah, that's another thing.
Um,
Fear. There's this fear of what Chababoloi, of like,
mm,
but there's this code,
ake
yeah,
kaya
around,
sekolong fela ka motivate bana bana.
yeah, around blacks never relax. Just this thing when I'm not sure if maybe it's caused by this term black or didn't term, but yo, it's there's a lot.
Yeah, no, it's a
All
lot,
right.
yes. So
Anyway,
hey,
yeah, that I think we can go the whole night on this conversation, but I think for now we can end it here. I think we spoke a lot. So the main solutions here deal on dealing with this age of consent. I think we said, or despite what biological aspect says, or the law says, or whatever, I think at the end of the day, children, a 14-year-old is not matured, so we should avoid
yeah,
those kids under 18. We should avoid them. We have a responsibility as adults to avoid them, even if you meet them at the tavern and the physical appearance confuses you. I think it is your responsibility as the adult to find out their age. Even if they start to
to
misbehave
find
in
out,
a way
hey,
you want,
dude,
I think you should just find out
yeah,
the age. And the taverns also, you must make
yeah,
sure you allow these kids in if they have an ID. Like, we should actually take responsibility for our own kids, for our
mm,
own community. It doesn't take a cent
yes,
to do that. We just have to take accountability, responsibility. We just have to unite, because the government, if it's failing us, if the legislations are not doing what they should be doing, we should just take matters into our own hands, and we can if we decide that we want to. And the schools also, you should also do
true,
your part, uh, make these kids aware of the opportunities they have, the resources they have, and those who have made it out of
yeah,
these communities, these poor communities. You have a responsibility to give back to your community. I say it's your responsibility, Velo, because you didn't make it on your own. You used someone else's resources. Someone else helped you when you
yeah,
didn't
true.
have
Someone
the
help you,
resources.
yeah,
Go back, even if
yeah.
it's just to give a motivational speech. You don't have to spend a cent. Just go back, give a
Hey,
motivational
hey, you
speech.
don't have to
Let
pay
the kids
anyone.
know, let the girls know that you don't have to
Mm,
waste it all now. You don't have to make restless decision and give up on your life. You can still escape from this. It may be hard, but you have a chance.
yeah,
And also, want to say to this issue, yeah, boloi, go chaba go thusha black people because of chaba boloi and stuff. Uh, I'll say boloi will exist, and whatever. I guess I can say your fears, maybe at some Nagojiri where they are valid, but I don't think we should allow that fear gore stop Utushana, because like yo, it's bad. We just came out of apartheid. There's still a lot of repairing to do. So we need to empower our women,
yeah,
our
yeah,
girls, because it doesn't look good on us as men if our women are doing this bad. Really, it doesn't. I think the measure of
yeah.
the
It
success
doesn't.
of a
Yeah,
nation is measured by how the how the women are doing. If the women are successful, the women are happy, the women are doing well. It reflects well on the men. Like, I don't know how do I
yeah, true.
this. So yeah, I think we should take responsibility, guys. Like, I know we didn't put ourselves in this situation, but we don't have a choice. We have to get ourselves out. We have to protect our women.
Yeah, true.
Doesn't cost a lot. We can do it if we decide to. That's it for today.
Yeah, we can.
Thank you for joining us. Till next time. Bye bye. Easy, easy,
I will.